Today we're going to be looking at how to solve one-step equations. This video is meant to be a quick overview of how to solve one-step addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication equations. If at any point during this video you find yourself feeling lost or confused, then I encourage you to pause this video and take a look at some of the video links in the description below where we break down each of these topics in a lot more detail. For question number 1 here, we can see that we have a one-step addition problem and we're being asked to solve for the value of u. Well, in order for us to isolate and figure out the value of any variable when solving a one-step equation, as we can see up top highlighted in yellow, we're going to need to perform the inverse or the opposite operation in order to isolate for our variable. Well, here in question number 1, we can see that we have u plus 14 equals 24. So we're going to need to perform the inverse operation of whatever is being done to our variable here so that we can isolate our variable. Well, here we're adding 14 onto our variable. So in order for us to undo this adding 14, we're going to perform the inverse operation. So we're going to be subtracting, because subtraction is the opposite of addition. We're going to be subtracting 14 from the left-hand side. And this brings up a very important point whenever we're working through one-step equations, is that we need to keep both sides equal, as we can see up top highlighted in blue. That means that since we're subtracting 14 from the left-hand side here, we're also going to be doing the same thing to our right-hand side as well. So now working through the left-hand side here, well, adding 14 and subtracting 14 is going to cancel each other out. So that means that our variable of u is now isolated. And then for the right-hand side, we're going to subtract 14 from 24, which we know is going to give us 10. So that means that u is equal to 10. And if we're trying to make sure that we have the correct answer here, we can simply just plug in our value for our variable into our original problem. So here we have 10 for our value of u, and then we have plus 14 equals 24. And when we add 10 plus 14, we get 24. And then since both sides of this equation are equal, it means that we have the correct answer. U is equal to 10. Now moving on to question number 2, where this time we have a one-step subtraction equation of r minus 51 equals 49. So in order for us to isolate our variable of r, we need to undo anything that's being done to our variable in this problem. And here we can see that we're subtracting 51 from our variable of r, so we're going to perform the inverse operation of subtraction, which is addition. So we're going to be adding 51 to the left-hand side, and we do need to keep both sides equal, so we're going to do the same thing to the right-hand side of this equation as well. And solving the left-hand side first, well, subtracting 51 and adding 51 cancel each other out, so that means that our variable of r is now isolated. And then on the right-hand side, when we add 51 onto 49, we get 100. So r is equal to 100. And now we are going to double check here. So we're going to input our value for r into our original problem. So we have 100 minus 51 equals 49. And when we subtract 51 from 100, we get 49. And then since both sides of this equation are equal, it means that we have the correct answer. R is equal to 100. Now moving on to question number 3, where this time we have a one-step division equation of x divided by 4 equals 8. So in order for us to isolate for our variable of x, we need to perform the inverse operation of whatever is being done to our variable. And here we're dividing our variable by 4, and the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So that means that we're going to be multiplying the left-hand side of this equation by 4, and we do need to keep both sides equal here, so we're also going to be multiplying the right-hand side of our equation as well. For the left-hand side, multiplying by 4 and dividing by 4 cancel each other out, so now our variable of x is isolated. And then for the right-hand side, we're going to be multiplying 8 times 4, which we know gives us 32. So x is equal to 32. And we are going to double check this just to make sure that we have the correct answer here. So we have 32 for a value of x being divided by 4 equals 8. And when we divide 32 by 4, we get 8. And since both sides of this equation are equal, it means that we have the correct answer. X is equal to 32. Now moving on to question number 4, our last problem, where we have a one-step multiplication equation of 5r equals 65. And we know that this is a multiplication equation because we have a number that's next to a variable, and that tells us that we're going to be multiplying here, and we need to perform the inverse operation of multiplication in order for us to isolate our variable of r, and the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both the left and the right hand side, because we need to keep things equal here, by 5. Well, for the left hand side here, when we have multiplying by 5 and dividing by 5, they cancel each other out. So now our variable of r is isolated. And then on the right hand side here, we have 65 being divided by 5, which we know gives us 13. So r is equal to 13. Now we are going to double check this just to make sure we have the correct answer here. So we have 5 times 13 equals 65. And when we multiply 5 times 13, we get 65. And then since both sides of this equation are equal, it means that we have the correct answer. R is equal to 13. So hopefully by now you understand how to solve one-step addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication equations. Help make math less complicated by smashing those like and subscribe buttons. As always, enjoy today's math journey.